So there's a new controversy that's taking place. Apparently, Donald Trump pressured Stephen Colbert to remove his interview with James Talarico. This isn't the first time that Donald Trump said something to the FCC, and then what was the last guy, Jon Stewart or something, was kicked off because he had some criticisms after the Charlie Kirk situation. And now it seems like another circumstance where the president of the United States is trying to act like an authoritarian fascist king and determine who can say what and determine who can broadcast their political message where. So I'm kind of curious about it. It is CBS, so I'm concerned about watching some parts. But let me.
People are watching this right now. It's because they found us online on YouTube. I did an act of the show that's on tonight explaining why. It's not the first time you've caused some drama. FCC opening.
So this isn't the first time that the FCC went after Talarico. FCC looking into Talarico. We'll look into that right afterwards.
Probe into The View after appearance by Talarico. Do you mean to cause trouble?
I think that Donald Trump is worried that we're about to flip Texas. And
losing Texas would be huge. It would be gigantic, losing Texas. Now, of course, we don't know who the Democratic primary nominee is as of yet. I think it's interesting to look this up. Democratic primary for Texas. Talarico versus Crockett. What are they running for? I don't live in Texas. What are they running for? Senate positions? Can I look up polling? Because I'm not sure what the current outlook is for these individuals. All right. So we can find the full story. Now, I did a reaction of Talarico on my channel for the Jubilee, and a lot of people like Talarico. I think he seems very genuine. He seems very empathetic. He comes at democracy and like liberal principles and his democratic platform through a Christian lens, which is not typical. But he doesn't believe in some of the ways that Texas is enacting their influence, especially against educational institutions, where they're trying to input religion in classes, so to speak. So he's an interesting candidate. And he's going up against Jasmine Crockett. Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, Democratic U.S. Rep, are leading their respective Senate primary races, according to a new polling released Monday, week before the start of early voting on February 17th. Today's February 17th. Interesting. In a statewide sample of 550 likely Republican primary voters conducted between January 20th and January 31st, Paxton led U.S. Senate incumbent U.S. Senator John Cornyn by 7 percentage points. Across the aisle, a similar poll of 550 likely Democratic primary voters shows Crockett running ahead of State Rep. James Talarico by 8 percentage points. The survey findings are a change from recent polls that found both races to be neck and neck. So Crockett is breaking away a little bit. Now, obviously, this is a smaller sample size, but this controversy with Talarico and Trump trying to censor him could be very much in Talarico's favor. Where it's like, wait, why is Donald Trump scared of this guy? And they might flip to him. This could be one of those unintentional circumstances where you raise his status instead of trying to censor it. In both primaries, 12% of respondents said they were still undecided. And in hypothetical matchups for the general election, there's little difference between the expected performance of a Republican and Democrat, regardless of the candidates. According to the survey conducted by the University of Houston Tobey School of Public Affairs, While it indicates that Paxton and Corrin could beat Crockett by 2 percentage points, Paxton could do slightly better than Corrin if facing Talarico. Between 7% and 8% of likely voters said they were still unsure how to vote in these cases. The poll has a margin of error of plus or minus 4.18 percentage points. For Republicans, the poll shows Paxton ahead about 38% likely, whatever. Paxton, don't care about Paxton. Meanwhile, the survey shows 47% of likely Democratic primary voters intend to support Crockett compared to 39% for Talarico, a marked difference from a recent poll that indicates they were in dead heat. I wonder why, what I heard there's like this little, I guess little is bad phrasing, but there was this controversy with James Talarico at some point in regards to what happened with a conversation in the background, and there was some like racism involved. I don't know. There's just some weird allegations regarding that. The Dallas congressman who led Talarico most key demographic groups for the primary, except for white voters and those who have an advanced degree, according to the Monday figures. The survey indicates that 46% of likely Latino primary voters support Crockett and 37% back Talarico. Wow. While 50% are unsure, previous polls have shown Talarico recently garnered an endorsement from the state's largest Hispanic Democratic organization, leading among Latino voters instead. Overall, 92% of respondents said at the time they knew about Crockett to have an opinion about her, compared to 85% for the Austin state lawmaker. Jasmine Crockett is more known, so that could be a huge part of this equation, because she was going viral for a lot of different things on the internet. And like she would have some owns here and there, but another big thing that made her viral is how she was swinging at MAGA. Didn't she say this crazy joke about the governor of Texas and about him being Hot Wheels, like him being in a wheelchair? So the notoriety of just being viral playing into politics is such a crazy fact nowadays. Beyond the Senate primaries, the survey also polled 1,500 likely general election voters and found an even split between those who approve and disapprove of Trump. Interesting. So Talarico slightly ahead at the moment. I'm guessing this is going to bump him up a few more points as well. But to be fair, this view thing happened. Might as well look into that real quick. This view thing happened before this recent controversy, and I don't know if this helped this case. So if we're looking at this thing regarding the view, the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, launched a probe into ABC's The View after the program held an interview with James Talarico. Reuters reported Saturday that, per a source, the FCC began an investigation on whether The View broke rules for equal time when it comes to interviewing political candidates. Fox News, which was the first to report on the probe, because obviously Fox News is at this point just MAGA propaganda, reported that the investigation was prompted by Talarico's The View appearance, according to an FCC source. In January, the agency shook up its rules, which exempted some late night and daytime talk shows from having to give equal airtime to opposing political candidates. Importantly, the FCC has not been presented with any evidence that the interview portion of any late night or daytime television show program on air presently would qualify for the bona fide news exemption. Moreover, a program that is motivated by partisan purposes, for example, would not be entitled to an exemption under longstanding FCC precedent. Brendan Carr, Trump glazer, has often criticized late night and daytime shows on networks such as ABC, NBC, and CBS. Though CBS will be talking about in a second. Since he was appointed by President Trump last year, this fall, Carr suggests it would be worthwhile to investigate ABC's The View over whether it qualifies for equal time rules. I would assume you could make the argument that The View is a bona fide news show, but I'm not so sure about that. So the question on what's going on is that The View is not considered a news show necessarily. So what it does is completely based off their own discretion. Interesting. So they looked in it. They came up with this thing about Talarico getting too much airtime. And then we fast forward to the Colbert show, and then Talarico got this interview got cut from CBS, so it got cut from mainstream news. Now, when it comes to mainstream media, anybody who thinks that it's not as valuable is kidding yourself, because each of them have their own demographics. Mainstream media typically akin to older people. Older people usually get their news from like CBS, NBC, Fox News, all that stuff. And older people are also the ones that typically vote in the first place. So losing out on that would be very dangerous potentially. But also the idea that he becomes somewhat of a martyr of free speech, I'm sure is enticing to a couple of people. I really hope this doesn't get taken down. I mean, they took this off the air, so I don't know why they would take this down in the first place. Let me check. Okay, we're still good to go.
And Stephen, this is the party that ran against cancel culture. And now they're trying to control what we watch, what we say, what we read. And this is the most dangerous kind of cancel culture, the kind that comes from the top. They went after.
It's the only dangerous kind of cancel culture, if we're being honest. The point of free speech has always been protection against the government. I know people get misaligned on what it truly is for, but that's ensured that the government can't limit your belief system, your protesting, what you speak about. They just can't do that. Private companies and media companies don't necessarily have to follow the same rules because you signed their terms of service and you decided to use their product. Now, there is something to be said about a platform housing so much voices and opinions that they should have a level of authority to the First Amendment. But when we're comparing the situations, it's night and day in terms of what media companies will do with your speech and what the government can do with your speech.
After The View, because I went on there, they went after Jimmy Kimmel for telling a joke they didn't like. They went after Jimmy Kimmel for telling the truth about Paramount's bribe to Donald Trump. Corporate media executives are selling out the First Amendment to curry favor with corrupt politicians. And a threat to any of our First Amendment rights is a threat to all of our First Amendment rights. So I'm just
to fact check you. My network said our cancellation was a purely financial decision.
Got it.
And yes. I remain very grateful for the last 11 years. Now,
they took him off due to financial decision. Like, nobody's buying that. I think people are starting to reach the point where these lies and misconceptions are not working. People are not as fooled as they were before with lack of context and lack of knowledge. So yeah, this is just interesting.
You grew up in Texas.
I
Here
did.
you are.
I did.
There you are. You can prove it. They give you the adult boots as a child, and you're supposed to just grow into them. I understand.
That's right.
You served in the Texas House, and now you're running for Senate. The race, frankly, should not be as interesting as it is. Donald Trump won Texas by 14%. Why do you think this year Texas is considered a possibility by Democrats?
Well, I'm an 8th-generation Texan. My family has been in our state since it was Mexico. And across...
So you're going to get deported, is what you're saying.
Across the state, there is a backlash growing to the extremism and the corruption in our politics. And I have traveled every corner of Texas already, from El Paso to Beaumont, from Amarillo to Brownsville. And we've had thousands of Texans showing up to rally with us. And I can't tell you the number of people who come up to me at the end of these events and whisper, I'm not a Democrat, like it's some kind of secret. And we've recruited 14,000 volunteers.
I do think this race in particular could be. I'm not putting this and setting this into stone, but it could be a litmus test on, one, the mobile voter, the mobile voice in the political space that is willing to engage and do what needs to be done to win elections. So people going out there to canvass, going out there to volunteer, going out there to vote in general. This race in particular could showcase the duality of the left, in particular the far left and the center left. Because I think you can probably say generally the far left probably supports Crockett more, and then the center left probably supports Talarico more. However, it's tough to determine, especially when we talk about like the presidential election, how much influence does either side, how willing are they to want to get involved? Unfortunately, there is this like infighting of no, this our way is better versus their way, and some members of the far left try to claim Mamdani, saying that this is the winning approach, and then the rebuttal to that would be the race in New Jersey and Virginia were ones that they won being more center left. I do think there's something to be said that when it comes down to tactics and the way Mamdani presented himself was really interesting. But in terms of positions, I think this could be a litmus test to determine you have to appeal to the voters. No one glove fits all. I don't know how this is going to go down. Regardless if it's Crockett or Talarico, they clear whatever Republican wins. So
volunteers who are out there doing the work all over our state. We have this is one of the most exciting parts. We have shattered grassroots fundraising records all without taking a dime from corporate PACs. And so this is really it's a people-powered movement to take back our state and take back our country. And I feel like we're building something really special in Texas, and clearly Donald Trump has taken note.
Now, one of the things that's come up in some of the conversations you've had on the Texas State House floor, which some of the videos I've seen you do, and one of the things that's gotten you attention out there is that you are a Presbyterian seminarian. Presently?
Yes.
Seminarian?
Yes.
Okay. The right attempts to co-opt Christianity, to say that you can't believe in God, you can't believe in God. I think that Donald Trump might have said something like that at the National Prayer Breakfast, like you can't actually be a Christian and be a Democrat. But the religious right is largely a political movement that references spirituality, but it's a political. What is your heartfelt hand out to the people who want to use religion as a tool of political power?
Well, for 50 years, the religious right, a political movement, that is the perfect description for it. They convinced a lot of our fellow Christians that the most important issues were abortion and gay marriage. Two issues that aren't mentioned in the Bible, two issues that Jesus never talked about. Jesus in Matthew 25 tells us exactly how you and I and every one of our fellow believers, how we're going to be judged and how we're going to be saved. By feeding the hungry, by healing the sick, by welcoming the stranger. Nothing about going to church, nothing about voting Republican. It was all about how you treat other people. Don't.
This is a fantastic point. And I do think, especially since he is religious, this could be very authentic to really appeal to voters across the board. I've said it time and time again for me that I'm not religious. I say I'm agnostic. I know a good amount about Christianity. And my perception is to not really waste my time to prove it is real or not real. One thing that I do appreciate and do like to do is that I do like to give props to the culture it can create in a positive way. Of course, there's negative connotations too. But in some of the principles that they advocate for, that we've seen Jesus Christ in particular, a very specific individual, the epitome of perfection. You consider either him being the Son of God or he is the human manifestation of God. We've seen him, like James Talarico said, feed the homeless. We've seen him willing to wash someone else's feet. We've seen him giving food out to a bunch of people by just keep on replicating it. We've seen him do a lot of things. And one of the most powerful things that I do think Christianity provides is the the important value of forgiveness and being able to forgive people, move on, and create a better society together. I mean, he is the ultimate forgiver because he forgave everybody's sins, saying they do not know what they do, or something like that. They not know what they do, something like that, right? These lessons really epitomize the necessary component of building a coalition, compromising with people you don't agree with, and just working with so many different types of people for a better future. Like, these values should resonate, regardless if you believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God or not. It should resonate across the entire political spectrum. Therefore, I'm surprised more candidates are not Christian Democrat, because in my purview is that MAGA, the right, they're fake Christians. A lot of them are. They appeal to things just to kind of live in this holier art thou moral superiority. And from my understanding, that's not what being like Jesus is all about in the first place. And the lack of humanity, the lack of care, it just weirds me out. And we've seen it throughout history where religion is used as a tool for control. I mean, oftentimes I think that is exactly what is being used or being done from the right. So James Talarico can reframe what it means to be Christian, not in its like entirety in terms of politics in America, but just reframe it in a way that allows people the opportunity to belong to the Democratic Party, but still believing in these values would be great. Oh, hold on. Apparently YouTube is down. Hold on. Christian nationalists betray Jesus' teaching by prioritizing authoritarianism. Like Talarico, voting against the Ten Commandments by MAGA used the language of the Bible for power. 100%, Jamie. 100%. Apparently YouTube is down. Is YouTube down? Oh, it is down. Okay, well, we're going to keep on rocking regardless. I'll turn this into a video if I have to. But we'll see what this happens, because I have to stream a podcast in like 45 minutes. Oh, well, let's continue.
I've said before, don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you treat other people, and I'll tell you what you believe. And I think in our faith,
I'm watching on YouTube somehow, so it's working for
My
you.
My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas, and when I was little, he told me that Christianity is a simple religion, not an easy religion. He would always clarify, but a simple religion because Jesus gave us 2 commandments: love God and love neighbor. And there was no exception to that second commandment: love thy neighbor regardless of race or gender or sexual orientation or immigration status or religious affiliation. And it's why I have fought so hard for the separation of church and state.
And you know what's crazy to me is that I bring this out, like, love thy neighbor. I think that's such a powerful principle. And then some people go like, well, God has been malicious in the past, right? God has been angry in the past. And I'm like, why are we bringing up all these Old Testament shit, right? You're Christians. Your religious values should be mostly determined from the New Testament, not the Old Testament, where, yeah, like God was doing all that crazy shit. So I don't know. It's just dawns on me in the picking of choosing of what things I want to believe in.
State in the state capital in Texas, because
Well, I want to ask you about that.
Yeah, please.
Because you did, as a state rep, you fought against the a bill requiring the 10 Commandments to be displayed in schools.
That's right.
Why, even on that level, do you think it's important to keep the separation, not just for the state, but for the church?
Well, because we are called to love all of our neighbors, including our Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikh, agnostic, atheist neighbors, and forcing our religion down their throats is not love. And it's why I have fought so hard for that sacred separation in our First Amendment, because my granddad, he raised me to believe that that boundary between church and state doesn't just benefit the state or our democracy, although it certainly does, but it also benefits the church. Because when the church gets too cozy with political power, it loses its prophetic voice, its ability to speak truth to power, its ability to imagine a completely different world. And so this separation between church and state is something we have to safeguard. It's something we have to fight for. And I think we need someone in the US Senate who is going to confront Christian nationalism and say and tell the truth, which is that there is nothing Christian about Christian nationalism. It is the...
That was a bar. There's nothing Christian about Christian nationalism. Okay, Talarico with the one-liners? No, he's absolutely correct. There is absolutely nothing Christian about Christian nationalism because you're not supposed to be forcing the religion onto people. You're supposed to be guiding them. You're supposed to be guiding them to Jesus. You can't force people to listen to Jesus. You didn't see Jesus Christ going through all these different areas and saying, you better believe me or you're going to hell. That's not what he did. That's not what he did. That's what I'm saying. These fake ass Christians, bro. MAGA defines their tribe as their neighbor. They use original Testament verses to bolster that idea, borders separating peoples, nation, all Old Testament. Jesus teaches all New Testament only. Like 100%, Jamie. It's so weird to me. You can't call yourself Christian and believe and just reference Old Testament to justify your actions. Be like Jesus. One of the biggest things in terms of being like Jesus, one of the biggest things of being a Christian, one of the biggest things in terms of being saved, because from my understanding, in order to get to heaven, you have to not only repent for your sins, but you have to truly like believe in Jesus Christ and in God and all that stuff, and embody the Christian virtue and values. All of that. All of what MAGA is doing is antagonistic to this very notion. And also, just be very clear so we're all on the same page. Donald Trump is not a goddamn Christian. He is manipulating you and saying he's Christian. He doesn't believe in God. He believes in himself. He's an idol that people on the right are just worshiping.
It is the worship. It is the worship of power in the name of Christ. And it is a betrayal of Jesus of Nazareth. And I just want to thank you, Stephen, because I know you're not a politician, but you have really shown people in this country what Christianity should be and what it means to actually live out the teachings of Jesus, even in a talk show.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit on that. That's very nice of you to say. I would never lay that compliment to myself because I think I fall far short of what my standards would be. But I will agree with you on this. I think that it is bad for certainly my church or any religious organization to associate themselves from a political party. Right. How must it diminish God to be associated with something so small as a present political party? Right. Because imagine this. Imagine that you managed to co-opt Christianity. Imagine if you managed to convince everybody that Jesus was on your side. If you then lose the election, sounds like you've got a pretty weak Jesus.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the key is you don't want to fit the big thing into the small thing. Mm-hmm. And God is the biggest thing there is. And so to try to fit God into a political party, whether it's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, you've got it reversed. And so it's why I think we have to remember.
I also think something very interesting about Talarico, if he wins the primary for the Democrats, is I say, I don't think I'm daring. I think factually, if we talk about morals, James Talarico is going to railroad any Republican talking about the values of Christianity. And the problem that Republicans will have if they go up against Talarico is they're not as knowledgeable as Talarico when it comes to scripture. And that there's no fucking way at all that they will be able to morally virtue signal against Talarico if he uses the Bible. Because Republicans are the party of Christianity. He could completely, and I know I'm giving a lot of credence to Talarico right here, but he can completely tear away the vision of Christianity that has been indoctrinated into the Republican Party by using scripture, logic, and basically God. And I don't think any Republican, any single one that's a part of the MAGA base will be able to debate Talarico in those concepts. Hey man, I have no stake in this Senate race because I don't live in Texas, so my vote doesn't matter. But I think there's something interesting about Talarico winning. I just do. Even though I rock with Crockett too, I do think there is a barrier for Crockett because she's a woman. Really, that is it, because it's Texas, bro. Like, what do you want me to say? She might have the black vote, but is the black vote enough? I don't know. But and this is probably the reason why MAGA is trying so hard to censor Talarico. He might be, oh my goodness, I'm giving this guy so much glaze and credit. He might be the Achilles heel for the MAGA party because they can't deal with his points. The only thing that some of these cultists can say is that he's a fake Christian. But if they had a bar-to-bar rap battle of scripture, they would all lose. Okay. Man.
To put those big things first, to put the love of God and the love for our neighbors before anything else. Because right now, what you've got is people baptizing their partisanship and calling that Christianity, when in reality, your politics should grow out of your faith, not the other way around.
Now, there's been some attention on your race in recent weeks after a TikToker that you met in person says that you privately said to them, and I'm going to get this quote, and they attribute to you, right? This person says, you said, I signed up originally to run against a mediocre black man, not a formidable and intelligent black woman, supposedly in reference to...
I wonder if this is the sole reason why he's losing support. This scandal right here. I don't know. It's just the weird. It just comes out of nowhere. Like, what? What happened?
Colin Allred being the black man, and you've denied this.
Yes.
Okay. You denied that you ever said that.
That's correct.
Okay. Allred continues to talk about it, even though he's no longer running for the Senate, correct?
Right.
So where does that stand? How do you, as someone who this person says this about you, you say it didn't happen, how do you imagine this gets adjudicated, and what would you like to say to people?
Yeah, I mean, we know that misinformation spreads on the internet, and it's sometimes like a game of telephone. As I said in my statement, I did critique Colin Allred's campaigning as mediocre, but I would never attack him on the basis of race. I respect Colin Allred deeply, even though we have disagreements on the best way to campaign and the best way to win Texas. My job in this moment is to try to lower the temperature, is to try to remind us that we are all on the same team, trying to change the politics.
I have no idea. I'm being completely off. I have no idea if he said this or not. I don't have a single clue if he said this or not. So I don't know enough about his character. I don't know anything about that at all. But if we're all on the same side, if we're all working together, why would you criticize his campaign as mediocre? That seems like a very negative thing to say about someone else that's on your side. Calling someone's campaign mediocre. Even if he didn't say this, even if it's like a far lefty reframing of a criticism of a black man and attaching race, even though race wasn't attached initially, whatever, that's possible, okay? Even if that's the case, that statement of calling someone else that's on your side mediocre, right, is a sharp contrast of Talarico's current persona, where he's like, we got to come together, we got to embrace Christianity, we got to embrace these good virtues. It does make it seem like he's playing a character. I'm just saying, but I could be overthinking it, but I do think it's something to pay attention to.
Of our state and change the politics of our country, because we are seeing the consequences of losing elections as we speak. And we have a moral imperative to win in November in Texas and to win.
You know what I want him to do? Explain why he called it mediocre. That's what I want, not these kind of generalized notions. For me, I'm like authentically me. So if I say something, I say it because I mean it. I say it because I want to say it. Now, I will troll and have fun and just like have a laugh. But if I'm making a critique of someone, I should be able to articulate it in front of people and behind closed doors relatively equally. I'm gonna be honest. You can never go like I'm being fake at any point. So I don't know. That is something that troubles me right now.
across this country, because that's how we're going to get things back on track. And so I know things get tense in a primary. I know stuff flies around on the internet. I understand that, but I'm trying to get us all to keep our eyes on the prize, which is remembering we're on the same team and getting out there doing the organizing work so that we can win in November.
Have you spoken, Colin?
I don't
I
like
have.
that response.
I called, I
don't
called
think
him
that was a
after
good
all this
response.
stuff came out and everything started to blow up, just to reiterate what I said in my statement, that I do respect him.
And how did the conversation go?
I don't want to reveal anything in a private conversation, but I hope that he and I walked away with a better understanding of each other.
No, you're serving in Texas House
I didn't like that response at all. I don't think that was a good response.
of Representatives. You've had your fair share of strange days. I understand you had to weigh in on legislation about, and I hope I'm reading this correctly, furries.
I did.
Now I know what furries are. Is that the same furries that I
Yes,
do not use my work
unfortunately,
computer
yes.
to search
Well,
for?
good.
That's
Awesome.
right. Yeah, when I ran for public office, I never thought I'd be talking about furries in this job. But my Republican colleagues in the state legislature, they were promoting an internet hoax that Texas public school students were identifying as cats.
Yes,
And,
I heard
and
this story.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
the schools were providing litter boxes to those students. I know.
I remember that. Yo, Republicans just be lying, bro. Their default is just to lie. The furry movie is kind of crazy, where people just want to be animals, like for sure. But yeah, also, and I'm gonna say this. When you're an adult, it's like, okay, sure, whatever. You're an adult. I don't give a fuck. I don't choose what you do. I'll just go like, oh, kind of cringe when I see you in person. If you're a kid, I'm also like, it's a kid. Kids pretend to be superheroes. They pretend to be robots. I don't care if they pretend to be a dog or a cat. Like, who cares? I just think there's bigger conversations to be had.
I know.
My understanding is it's not just Texas; it's everywhere in the United States.
It's an epidemic. from what I hear.
Biden signed the
Giving
law.
kids-
Yes,
litter
forcing
boxes
litter
is
boxes. in
crazy.
everyone's house, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, they decided to write a bill to combat this completely made-up problem, and it fell to me as a member of the Public Education Committee to question the.
I'm pretty sure I looked it up and it's made up. He says it's made up. I'm gonna say it's made up. I was just talking in generalities. If this was true, that would be crazy. I don't think it's true.
author of that bill. And so I just asked him a pretty simple question. Has there been a single documented case of a school providing a litter box to students? And he couldn't name one. And this video went everywhere. You can look it up online.
So the law was working.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. He actually kind of said something similar to that.
Yeah.
His response was that this law is to prevent that from ever happening.
Oh, I understand.
Which I guess
Sure.
that's true.
A law
but
to
anyway,
prevent something from happening.
There is a
What?
point to this craziness. They want us talking about furries and bathrooms, so we don't realize that they are picking our pockets, that they are closing our schools, they are gutting our healthcare, and they are raising taxes on all of us while they cut taxes for their billionaire donors. The culture wars are a smokescreen, because the real fight in this country is not left versus right, it's top versus bottom. Thank you, sir.
He's right. I think Colbert does go in detail on like how it was cut. I'm pretty sure he does. Okay, right here.
Exciting.
Yes. Well, if you look right down here, you'll see we are now Louis Cato and the Great Big.
Cares. So go
right.
get this album.
Right.
And Garner will be here. What a joy. What a joy, always Jennifer Garner. And you know who is not one of my guests tonight? That's Texas State Representative James Talarico.
Yo, what in the AI? Why did they use an AI image for James Talarico? They couldn't find a normal render. Yo, AI is getting out of control. Y'all are getting lazy with AI. What is this? crazy when he said top versus bottom. Grow up, Austin. How about that? Like, what are we doing?
He was supposed to be here, but we were told in no uncertain terms by our network's lawyers, who called us directly, that we could not have him on the broadcast. Then I was told in some uncertain terms that not only could I not have him on, I could not mention me not having him on. And because my network clearly doesn't want us to talk about this, let's talk about this. You've probably heard.
Let's go, people with balls. Obama said it himself. In a period where our rights are being challenged, this is the most important time to speak up. Most important time. Austin, you probably say 6'7" all the time, huh?
So you might have heard of this thing called the equal time rule, okay? It's an old FCC rule that applies only to radio and broadcast television, not cable or streaming, that says if a show has a candidate on during an election, they have to have all that candidate's opponents on as well. It's the FCC's most time-honored rule right after no nipples at the Super Bowl. There's long been an exception for this rule, an exception for news interviews and talk show interviews with politicians. Now, that's crucial.
Fair enough.
How else were voters supposed to know back in '92 that Bill Clinton sucked at saxophone? But on January 21st of this year, a letter was released by FCC chairman and smug bowling pin Brendan Carr. In this letter, Carr said he was thinking about dropping the exception for talk shows because he said some of them were motivated by partisan purposes. Well, sir, you're chairman of the FCC, so FCCU. Because I think you are motivated by partisan purposes yourself. Sir, you smelt it because you dealt it. You are Dutch ovening America's airwaves. Let's just call this what it is. Donald Trump's administration wants to silence anyone who says anything bad about Trump on TV because all Trump does is watch TV. Okay? He's like a toddler with too much screen time.
It's so ridiculous. Apparently, Brendan Carr wrote a section in Project 2025 too. So he's absolutely a Trump sycophant. It's crazy that we live in this time period where the president of the United States wants to limit other candidates. He wants to affect elections so badly. It's so ridiculous. It's crazy. We live in a crazy time period, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a short stream to talk about this. I don't know how there's anybody who could justify what is going on here. Yeah, it's pretty insane. And from my understanding, it's really just a situation where now that they want to remove, talk shows having this right. And from my understanding, when we kind of looked at it, political news has to have an equal amount of both parties, but talk shows are an exemption, and now they want to remove that to not get influence there. I wonder if they're eventually going to apply that same standard to podcasts, because there is something to be said that Joe Rogan had a podcast with Donald Trump, and he didn't do one with Kamala Harris. It's something to be said that Donald Trump appeared on Flagrant, but Kamala Harris did not. So the differences between a talk show and podcast are literally zero. Therefore, they're okay with this as long as it benefits MAGA. This is all a tactic to control elections. This is just more evidence and more ammunition that we live under a fascist, authoritarian regime. Simple as that. So, honestly, you said pro-First Amendment, the only side that is good. Facts. But yeah, short stream. Wanted to talk about this real quick. I got something else to do.